And today we are going to have an incredible conversation for you to level up in your outlier journey. We are bringing together a roundtable here with Diana Stevens and myself, and we're going to be exploring here how you continue to grow as you continue to move along and to play at the biggest level you can. Why play small when there's big available for you? So let's bring Diana onto the platform here. Diana, thank you so much for making the time for this year. It's an absolute pleasure to be in space with you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So let's get this kicked off here by uh, letting outliers know more about you. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Love to. And I think we're having a little bit of a delay
Yeah.
still with my mouth and my voice, so I don't know what's wrong there. But anyway, I am founded a company called Mindful Job Alignment about 3 years ago. And I have a unique approach to working with people in career because I don't have any kind of a background in HR. I'm not coming from that aspect. What the aspect I'm coming from is really working with body, mind, spirit, along with personal branding, and then really taking a look at the uncontrollables that people can't control in terms of any kind of career pivot or looking for a new position. So it's a unique background where I also put in mindfulness and meditation techniques as well to really support that body, mind, spirit side. And
Nice,
previous
nice,
to
nice.
doing mindful job alignment, I was in corporate America in national account sales for 40 plus years. I know we talked about that when we talked earlier. Yes, I do have 40 years of experience.
Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. Yes, yes. Here we go. So outlines. Yeah, there's a bit of a delay right now that's coming
Yeah.
in the audio and video. We'll work on our end on the back end to try and get that to sync up. But if
Okay.
not, like I will say that like Diana just has so much to offer in this conversation. We're not gonna like hold back on anything, right? And we'll navigate it as it comes through. Diana, let me start off by acknowledging you in your decades worth of experience, and I really appreciate you bringing that to the table right off the bat here. Like there's something in here. You called it in, you brought it into our conversation here. So what was the significance of that for you to be able to like really claim and own like your 40 years of experience in the work that you do?
Well, it's very liberating for one thing. When you can authentically be yourself and not be hiding aspects of your personality or your life, all because for years maybe you met up with the wrong people or the inappropriate communities or wherever that you didn't fit and you did feel like an outlier. Once you finally get in a situation where you're owning it, and then you can really attract in more people who are in your tribe.
I think that's it. Like this is all about ownership here, and you know
Hmm.
one of the things I get about you is that like you've been someone who's played a big game all
Hmm.
throughout your career. So would you mind sharing with us some of like the I'm curious how some of the highlights of your career made you decide like now when you're with the work that you're doing, we're going to focus on like three different pillars here. So you mind letting us know if there's any kind of like how your experience led you to the work that you do right now?
Sure. I think the catalyst was really something that occurred over time. From about the year 2000, really until 2016, I went through a lot of change, both in my personal life and in my professional life. In my personal life, I was having elder care responsibilities for my mother, who had a 16-year-long battle with Alzheimer's. And that was extremely stressful and financially draining. During that time, I also had a series of career instability where either I had companies merging, companies having closing up divisions underneath me, but went through actually, I've gone through 7 corporate downsizings since the year 2000. And during that time, I went through outplacement a couple of times. I really enjoyed the experience of outplacement, but what was missing in all that was the support for the emotional side of what I was going through and why I was continuing to see these challenges and, of course, needing to cope with those, which I was doing as everything was kind of thrown at me. But it inspired me to go back to school, which I did in 2019, and I worked on my doctorate in holistic coaching, which I completed in March of 2021. And through that, I went in there with the idea of let's just see what comes up for creating my next chapter, which would be my end of career, fourth quarter. What would I do in my retirement? Because I really didn't see myself not working at all because I'm too interested in too many things. But I landed on really spreading the message about the importance of having some kind of support structure spiritually that one can turn to when times are tough, because we have to get through the regular mechanics of life, but there's that other piece about having that good structure there to make sense of what's going on. So that's how the whole thing sort of evolved. It was over a long period of time, and now it's getting more refined as I get into more of the career area, which I made a pivot into in 2024, and still learning about what's interesting about the dynamics of that realm, which is really dominated by HR philosophy, but that's not really the only philosophy out there that serves people who are looking to uplevel their careers. So it's a whole evolution. But it's
Yeah, I
something
love
that I
this here.
dearly believe in is that balance between the internal mindfulness and then incorporating that into your life to be able to live life a lot more stress free and fully.
So, like, you talked a couple times about like not having an HR background. So, like, help me see how like that feels very outliery in the kind of ways that you play, right? So, tell me about like how do you leverage the fact that you come from a non traditional background toward the work that you do right now?
One of the ways I leverage it is I tell people I don't have a day in HR. And some people really like that. It just depends, I think, what people are looking for. But I come from a different perspective. I really come from the perspective of someone who's made a number of career pivots, needed to look for a job a number of times. And I come from that angle. And it's almost like I actually do use a lot of my sales strategies in my work because
Make it real for us, Diana. Like, give us an example of something that you've applied. Because the thing about outliers here is that we are multi hyphenated people. We like, and almost no one I've talked to says I started this job on day one, and then my first job, and I've been in it the entire way through. So I'm
oh,
curious to see
correct.
like, yeah, I'm curious to see how you leverage like things that made you awesome in sales to be able to now make like help people with the work you're doing now.
Well, leveraging a lot of the different techniques such as prospecting, looking for new clients, looking for the opportunities within existing clients to expand their portfolio of services. That's one thing. The other piece is about handling objections, asking for how well uh, the product or the service or yourself, if you because you become the product when you're looking for a new career pivot. How well do you fit what they're looking for, and then handling any objections in the interview, which is really the sales call. So some of
Yeah.
those are the ways I cross that over.
As you're saying this here, it makes me think about how I think about my business, and where it's like there's an internal and external side of things where it's like externally I'm selling these services, internally I'm hiring people, but we're like I'm selling them on the business, on the opportunity that's there, right? And so at the end of the day, like as you say this here, what I feel like I'm hearing from you is like there's a parallel between between the two elements here of external sales and then selling yourself essentially, right, and going through that process overall over there. Let me see if I'm landing the plane the way that I want to, but I see in my mind like I'm like, oh, you're
Mhm.
doing the same exact thing. We might just call it like, I don't know, it might be like advertising in one realm, but it might be called like looking up a job description or like job post in another realm, right? Where it's like they actually are parallels or they're tied together. Does any of that land like
Yeah,
you've
absolutely.
lived this more than me?
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the things I'm as you're talking here is I'm like, oh, I'm seeing just like one of it just being like the parallels of things, and then the other part of it just being like, oh, we can change things, but then like the underlying elements of what makes something successful can also stay pretty consistent, you know?
Absolutely.
So so like tell me here like spirituality, right? So like this is beyond just like what I get about you is that you're not someone that's just like, hey, let me just go and like let's just go get you for the next role. Let me make sure you are prepared for the interview, so on and so forth, and kind of just taking it at like the table stakes level. Like there's a depth to the work that you do that
Mhm.
feels like it goes beyond. Like why is that important to you? Why what do you feel that like it almost feels like there's an X factor that people get access to when they enter your world that goes beyond like standard resume reviews or like how do you polish this up and so on and so forth. So like tell us about like this
Absolutely.
X factor of spirituality and why it ends up being so important.
Sure. The spirituality is so important because it really has to do with self awareness and really understanding yourself, really understanding what are your values, what do you perceive to be your purpose, and what do you like about what you're doing, and how does it align with your life, and how you want it to look versus just having some place to go where you're making money in a regular paycheck and you're just kind of putting up with it. And I think there's a lot of people we're not really taught to be self-aware. Everything is rush, 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 and achievements, and for lack of a better word, hunting the deer and keep moving forward, versus just taking time to reflect. What do I want? What lights me up? What am I good at? And what do I want to bring to the world? What is my message? And how can I find other people or other communities or companies that will allow me to express myself fully? People don't think about that. They hone in on skills, job, probably the salary of the position, the security of the position, which security is a word that doesn't really go along with the job market nowadays. But there's that piece that just gets dropped out. And what I find is that in coaching, there's a lot of people the people who have been exposed to mindfulness, spirituality, have done self exploration work, personal growth work, are a little bit more in tune with themselves and what they want. But what I mostly find with a lot of people is they come so burnt out and so fed up when they finally reached the crisis point of, I need to find a new environment to be in because this is so toxic. They didn't think about what they wanted. Sometimes, of course, the environments do change, management changes, corporate directions change so that it no longer aligns with your value system. That happens too at companies. But for the most part, I find a lot of people really aren't in touch with themselves, and they're just rushing out to find that next opportunity to keep that paycheck going. It's very financially driven versus spiritually driven. And I'm on a mission to change that, because I think there is the old saying, "Do what you love, and the money will follow," and that's very true. Because as you start vibrating this more positive energy, you're going to attract in people, places, and circumstances that are going to allow you to really achieve your highest and best good. And
This is
that's what I'm trying to be a champion of.
Well, it's interesting to me that this comes in, right? So the spirituality is so it's fun for me when it comes to you, Diana, because like when I think about like the sales experience, the types of deals that you make, the types of deals you get for your clients on more of like on the job side of things here. Like I wouldn't think spirituality would be one of the first things that comes in, and yet at the same time, like it's clearly quite present and like prevalent in the work that you do. So like w- part of what I think I'm hearing is a tie to like deep authenticity, being honest, genuine, being able to have your full self out there in the world, right? And so like help me see like how that. I guess it's like give me an example of how that has worked out for you, being able to like tap into all of like your expression in the work that you do right now.
In terms of authenticity, you're
Yeah,
asking?
it's like yeah, in
Sure.
terms of I think it's just like it's not just authentic. I feel like you're just like like it's just a better product. If the product is you, you're a better product if you're like in touch with all of you and able to bring all of you
Hmm.
to like an employment situation, right? And so I'm curious about like how you leverage that. Like I just like to try and find ways to keep it real. So either yourself or a client, if you mind sharing a story around that, that would be really helpful for us to like get that side in, because I think it's that balance between all right, the spirituality can sit in like the ethereal, but at the same time, you know how to like also get like things over the line. So I'm really curious about like, can you connect the two for us right now?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think part of it is just what part of what it is what I've worked on for a very, very long time, which is keeping calm, putting in a meditation relaxation practice into my life on a regular basis daily, and knowing how to handle stressful moments when they come up. So I've already worked really hard to get into a place where I'm a lot calmer when these things happen. But I'll give you a good example. In my very last position in corporate America, it turned out not to be a fit after a really great interview process, and really the expertise that I brought to the company was not really needed or being used. It was there was the tasks at hand were much more lower level and administrative, and just moving into an area that I really didn't want to go. And it became very apparent about 14 months into the tenure at that role. And so then it did come to a discussion one day with my manager about um, where the gaps were in what I was doing, and it was presented to me. Here's some steps that you can do to improve performance, and I think we all know where this conversation is going, where people invariably get offered this what's called a PIP plan versus and with a time frame. I've had that happen before, and of course this is because you're in a position that's not aligned with where you want to go. And in that moment, I just said, what are my choices? And I literally wound up talking with HR and negotiated a package, and I made an exit versus going through all that, because I knew that, first of all, it was rather an unreasonable plan that had been placed in front of me. It included some things that had never been discussed that I in my job description, and I just came to the road and I said this. So the spiritual aspect came in of this is the universe pushing me into a new direction, and I chose to exit, take a package, which was not making me a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination, but it was reasonable, and I was able to move on. And 6 weeks later, I landed another position in the career coaching arena, made the complete pivot out of where I had been in customer success, dealing with retailers and retail issues, and moving on into the career realm of coaching and working on resumes for a very large outplacement firm, and a great way to get started. So
Nice.
I made that move, and I made that move through networking, by the way, not through applying. I knew somebody who was working there, and openings came up, and he said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yes," and the rest is history.
Well,
So I now have a supportive structure for continuing to grow my own private practice.
see, one of the things I love about this here is that, like, the rest is history, but like history is happening right now. Like history is in the making, right?
Yes.
Right now, I feel like we're living history is another way of saying it. So, part of like I love to like see here, like you said, like you got it through networking. I saw
Hmm.
like how that came across when you said that. There is that like when you go to like your sales world here, is that kind of how things worked out there too, or was it like, hey, you were
Hmm.
just like really responding to art? I would say like an RFP might be the equivalent of a resume drop or like uh yeah during
Right.
that line. So is this kind of like similar to how you got things going for you in the sales world?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of networking, working within the accounts to grow the accounts, developing relationships, and looking for their pain points and where they wanted to make more money, and how the brand that I was managing could leverage bringing in more customers into their stores.
See, this is like the reason I keep coming back to the sales element of it here is
Hmm.
because I think that there's two components to it, right? It's like you bring something where you have an outside perspective because you're not going through like the traditional like HR kind of like path of looking at things.
Right.
You bring in the get the deal done perspective, like that's what I'm going to
Hmm.
say it like here, where it's
Yeah.
like how to source new opportunities, how to like get in front of people, how to work on objections, how to like when you're talking about the account management, how to continue to like see like where are the opportunities and expand it and connect in there. So I'm seeing all that, which like is directly applicable to the actual process of making the pivot and getting into a role. But then you also bring in that extra level of the spirituality and like being like, all right, how do we actually make sure that as we're doing all this stuff, it's all tapped into you. And I think that like there's I'm dancing with this here a little bit because I think that like that the juxtaposition of both the spirituality and like the sales experience coming at it from like we're looking at this from a different lens or a different angle is both it's refreshing, but there's also something in me there. I'm like, oh, it's lovely because it works on like the principles that just work. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like underneath all this here, you keep finding like what works and keep bringing out like you keep finding ways to package it in a way that can be for other people. How when I say that there and I bring in all three of those, a different perspective, the sales experience and like the parallels that you're seeing through that, and then the spirituality. How aligned does that feel to you as I'm saying it out here?
And I feel really aligned.
Nice.
That really is
Nice.
true authenticity for me. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and outliers. So we're talking about this through Diana's lens right now, but I want you to be thinking about it for yourself here. Like, where else are you like if you are going to be different, right? Which is pretty much the case because we're outliers here. It's not that we're trying to be different. It's just like if we are being fully expressed, allowing all the different ways that we see things, they all come together. Like, and how fully are you owning that? How much are you bringing that all to the table here? I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Um, So Diana, like, let me ask you here, like, I want to know, like, what's a project that you're taking on right now that gets you really excited, but also has you step onto your edge, right? The project that you're like, all right, if this comes to life, like, this would be awesome, but like, I have to do something very different than I was doing before. Can you mind sharing more about that?
Well, funny you should mention that because I have written a book and I
Nice,
was just on the phone this morning with my publisher because I'm getting ready to submit the manuscript.
nice.
So that's really taken me, I wouldn't say out of my comfort zone, but because I'm very comfortable writing and talking about it, but the
Hmm.
refinement of putting it into a logical sequence that's going to be beneficial to the reader, that's taken a little bit of tweaking. So
Yeah.
basically, what I did was I took my doctoral dissertation and I broke it apart and put it into a book and added additional sections that I did not have in the dissertation. And then I put in a whole section on the mechanics of job search because resume and LinkedIn are very important, as is networking. And that's in there. But I was also, the beautiful part about a book is that you get to create from a blank canvas in a way, right? So I
Mhm.
got to put in there also my philosophy on job search as the hero's journey, which I loved, and putting more in on purpose and putting more in on calm space in the home with a feng shui aspect. So I was able to add in more bits and
Mm.
pieces of spirituality to it than I would normally have, let's say, in a blog or something like that. So it's been a labor of love, and I just was today finding out all the parameters about submitting and what my options were and what was next steps. And it's amazing, I thought in this day and age with all the tools we have and all the fast things on the internet that the publishing cycle would be shorter, but
Mm.
it's still going to be around 6 to 8 months to get it published. So it having a book, writing a book is very similar to having a baby. It takes almost about as long, and I've heard a lot of people refer to that before. And now that I'm in it, I'm like, wow, that's true. It does take 6 to 8 months to get a book published. But
Nice,
I'm
nice.
looking forward to it. It's going to be a great way to expand the conversation.
Well, I love the expanse of the conversation. I'm also hearing that it also is like solidifying your thoughts,
Yes.
going through because like I see you like you have a unique you have a I'll say a unique perspective, not because it's different, because it has to be different, but it's like it's your perspective. Like you're one of the people who's willing to go out into the world and say, like, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe, this is how I see it coming out into the life. And you not only are doing this through the work you do directly when you work with your clients, but you're also doing it now like through the message you put out here, not just on this conversation, but also in like your books and your book and beyond. So let me first start off by just acknowledging you in the what is it, in the fidelity of your message and the integrity of that message coming through first and foremost. Like we'll get to the book writing process in a bit, but let me just first acknowledge you there.
Thank you.
Yeah, from the book writing perspective here, like what is one of the things that you learned about yourself as a result of going through this process of actually getting this book process published?
I definitely needed help with cohesive ideas and laying things out,
Mm,
and putting them in an order that made sense, and then having some bridge paragraphs at the beginning and the ending of each chapter to bridge it on into the next chapter and have the flow going. So it
mhm.
was interesting to just take something that was highly academic and turning it into something that would be easier to read.
Yeah, there's I bring this up every once in a while because I need to go and change this and just start promoting it here. But I wrote a book here, or authored a book 3 years ago. And I had this whole thing. I'm like, I'm gonna get it done in 90 days. And we got pretty did pretty decently. But that stage of like the extra edits and sitting down with it and such, like that's what took me out of the game realistically. I'm like, it's good to put it out there. We had it organized, we had some transitions, we had assessments and all that, but there was an editing part of the process. So I'm like, oh man, I'm like it took me out. I don't think I've ever really framed it that way or shared it that way. I'm like, I just didn't want to promote, but I'm also like, I didn't want to edit it to that extent. I would rather be in conversation. So one, I see you and acknowledge you choosing to go down a path that is um that is that in and of itself becomes a force and function to solidify and codify your thoughts, to bring it out into a process in the system that works for people to continuously get results. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about having your own system, your own way of getting things done, that it, where you're able to keep using it and leveraging it to go and get people to higher and higher levels and beyond. You know,
Thank you.
awesome. So Diana, let me see. We're going to start wrapping up the conversation
Yep.
here, but my question for you is this: for any outlier that's out there that is looking to make a pivot, I made a pivot myself. I was a retirement actuarial consultant, and then I went into learning and development. So I went from like being a like external consultant to things to working in learning and development inside of a tech company. And so I know what it was like. What it was like. I remember one of the my final interviews. Someone asking me was like, "Why is there like actuarial to this, like make sense of this, to me." But I was exactly the right person. So and one of the things I was really clear of when I came to this next job was like I wanted to do it as me. I didn't want to hide any parts of me. I want to like let them know like, hey, I'm building things on the side, so on and so forth. And so when you talk about the spirituality, when you talk about the full expression of self, we talk about being able to bring all of you to the jobs that you have, especially when you're making a pivot. It just really speaks really really highly to me. Um, if there's any outlier who wants to go deeper down the journey with you, who are the best people to work with you, and how can they reach out?
I think the best people to work with me are people who have a curiosity about the whole body, mind, spirit piece, want to dig deeper into that, and then honoring their expertise of whatever ever area that they have. But that's the main thing. And people who are just genuinely curious and who are coachable.
Mm.
That's one of the main things. Are you coachable? Do you take suggestions and kind of percolate on them and then put them into action? Or are you not coachable? And if people know everything already, then that's great. I'm probably not the appropriate person to work with. And somebody who's not open and curious about spirituality and deepening that part of their life, probably there's other people that would be better to work with than myself. But otherwise, if you're curious and you want to own your uniqueness and start moving that forward, then looking to make a pivot in your career, then be happy to have that conversation. I love to brainstorm.
I appreciate that, Diana. And one of the things I got there was like I could see the element of who you're not for coming through, right? And I think that this really showed up. I was like, oh yeah, these are not things that people think about. It's subtle. It shows up in conversation. You wear it really well. You own it really well. But you're really clear about like this is like who this product is for. This is who this service for. This is what this opportunity is for. And
Hmm.
I look at that and I'm like and I hear it. I'm like, oh, like this is it. This is those like subtle things that you get as a result of working with Diana, where it's like, um, you are like you're able to position yourself in such a way that it just like it feels natural, but essentially I'm like I can see how the sales experience would make this come through, and it's not about like
Mhm.
it like what I feel here is like you're like I know what this is, and this is not for everyone, but for those who it is, it's going to change their world in a very positive
Mhm.
way. And if it's not, there's something else out there for you. And so thank you for that, Dan, and thank you for like showing up and living that all the way through. The way that we like to end every conversation is that we look at each conversation as a life changing conversation. What's an insight or takeaway that you are leaving this conversation with?
Really about owning, I think, my uniqueness and my own authenticity. I've been thinking about that since the previous conversation that we had. And it really does help you feel a lot more comfortable in your own skin as you start really digging down deeper into that conversation. Because
Yeah,
I think in so many cases, we're kind of taught to play small to fit in into certain cultures or environments. And if we can't, most people who have embraced their uniqueness are very happy. You know, you're not suppressing something that has a natural expression that should be let out. So
yeah.
I applaud you for that, to encourage that.
Yeah, most certainly, Diana. And you know, one of the things that I found is I'm like, it doesn't mean it's any easier. In fact, it might be like a harder road, but there's more energy that we can put towards it because the rewards
Yep.
are there, and we're getting something in there. So, thank you for living that. Thank you for living that out loud and letting us see all that here. Outliers, we're going to wrap up for now. You'll see us again at the top of the hour if you're watching us live. Otherwise, you can go and listen to the next message here. But until the next time, we all talk. Be you on purpose. Journey on. And I hope to see you inside of the Outliers Edge school community. You can go to school.com/outliers to join us there. Use the QR code on the screen.